I'll start the 8th session of the special FC meeting. The quorum, may I remind members, is chairman plus 8 members. May members be seated according to the usual seating arrangement for the Finance Committee meeting. The purpose of the special Finance Committee is to scrutinize the estimates of the government in 2013-14 to ensure that the allocation requested by the administration in 2013-14 will not exceed the amount needed by relevant policies. Depending on the number of members who would like to speak, I will decide on the speaking time limit for members. Would members please press the request to speak button first? And I'd like to remind members that all questions must directly be related to the estimates. If members would like to follow up on the administration's written reply, please quote the reply serial number on the top right-hand corner, for example, DEBVW001. And to facilitate the conduct of the meeting, the Secretariat this year has adopted a computer interface under which the desktop computers in front of the members will show the written serial number, and the same reply will also be displayed on the screen in the conference room. If time is not enough, members can submit their written supplementary question. The form is in front of your desk. Please return the form before the end of today to the Secretariat. The administration will try to give a reply before the meeting on the 24th of April. May I first invite the Secretary for Development and his team to come inside this conference room to reply to members' questions on the works. Secretary, I see that your speaking notes speaking points are very long, and this session will last till around 10. So, and members already have your speaking notes. So please be concise so that we have more time for members' questions. Well, the speaking notes have been distributed to members beforehand, so I suggest that I skip reading it out, and I'll leave the time for chairman to invite members to ask questions. We have 7 members who have pressed the button so far, 8 so far, so 5 minutes. Sin Chung Kai, Wong Kok Hing, Kenneth Chen, Yip Kok Kim, Kwok Ka Ki, Eleanor, Gary Fan, Chen Kam Lam, Tam Yu Chung. The first one, Mr. Sin Chung Kai, DVB 128, a question from James Toh about the inspection conducted by EMSD. In part C of the reply, how many inspections have been conducted by the EMSD? The administration will step up audit inspections, and the percentage will be raised to 10%. But if I understand correctly, according to reports, only 20 staff are responsible for lift inspections. So will it be too superficial? And are there any ways for the administration to instill better confidence in the general public and to ensure quality in their audit inspections? Would EMSD please reply? Director of EMS. Chairman. Now, in relation to the percentage of annual audit inspections, we have increased from 10% to 1 out of 7, and we inspected around 9,000 times per year. And many of them, many of the inspections are done on a random basis. No prior notice will be given, and it's correct. We, as far as staff is concerned, our formula is 1 + 3 + 19. So we are able to conduct over 9,000 inspections, because on average, each officer can conduct 2 to 4 inspections, depending on the details of the inspection. And if there are irregularities identified, we will issue notice for improvement, and we'll also review the case and under some circumstances, we will also follow up on the details of work carried out by the contractor, etc., in relation to the works record and the inspection record. After the incident, we are now conducting a review on the process of audit inspections and whether there is room for any further improvement. We're happy to listen to views, and as directed by the administration, we are going to set up a lift and escalator advisory committee. We hope that through engaging stakeholders and the general public, we can seek views from various stakeholders and see what can be done to improve our inspection work in the future. In particular, the scoring system. We have a two-pronged approach. One is enforcement, one is administrative measures, but we want more information to be given. Can you be more specific? The number of inspections has increased from 7,000 to 9,000, so per day each officer will have to carry out, say, one more inspection. So will this affect the quality because they have a quota to meet now? Will that result in decreasing quality? Director, well, may I reassure members, because in 2011 we have increased manpower. We have one more engineer and 7 inspector posts. So we have support in relation to resources when the ratio is increased from 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 7. Any follow-up, Mr. Sim Chung Kai? No. Mr. Wong Kwok Hing. Chairman, in relation to page 14 of the speaking notes of the Secretary, I would like to ask the administration. The desalination plant in Cheung Kwan O will undergo feasibility study for 2 years. This is strategic, and my question for the administration is whether the administration has carefully looked into the issue. We have a quite frequent bursting of water mains, and has the administration conducted any assessment, and to what level? Secondly, fresh water is used for flushing purposes in urban areas instead of seawater, and also on educating the public on on the use of fresh water. These are more efficient strategies comparing to waste or spending money on studying about desalination plants and about the water supply from Dongjiang. This is our main source of water supply. And can the amount be further increased, or can the administration look for alternative sources of water supply instead of studying about desalination? Well, in the past, there was a study about Lok Om Pai, and it failed. There was a plant, and it failed, and there were considerations from the administration. Now we're heavily relying on the mainland for water. So will new sources of water supply be explored on the mainland, or will the administration consider increasing the water supply from Dongjiang instead of studying about the desalination plant because it is more reliable? Secretary, now about Dongjiang water supply and desalination plant, the WSD has a very comprehensive management strategy. May I defer to the director to take this question. Thank you, Chairman. Now, we understand that the water supply is it's tight in mainland, in particular in Guangdong province, and because of the climate, we need to look at the rainfall, because the rainfall has decreased on the mainland. There are a couple of issues, saving water and the use of seawater or salt water for flushing. All these are strategies adopted by our department, and the total water management strategy was rolled out in 2008. In terms of water supply, we explored new water sources. In fact, along Dongjiang River, we find that according to the Dongjiang water distribution policy announced in 2008, the water supply to Shenzhen and the vicinity areas have exceeded the water supplied. So there has been a greater demand, a rising demand along the river, and if there are changes in rainfall, we need to explore the feasibility of a desalination plant to see if it's technically feasible and cost-effective in building one. And we need to be cost-effective, and we are talking about 2020 when the plant can be commissioned. So we think that before 2020, there is still a great difference in cost comparing to the supply from Dongjiang River. So we are still exploring the best technology in supplying stable alternative water supply to Hong Kong. To follow up on the desalination plant at Cheng Kwan O, what will be the percentage of water supply to Hong Kong once it's commissioned? The percentage is very small, it's 5% as we estimate at the moment. It can be expanded to 9%, mostly to supplement the shortage of rainwater harvested during seasons with low rainfall. I'd like to follow up on DVB 007 and 008 about the tree management of the administration. According to the statistics given by the administration in relation to the number of trees on the old and valuable trees register, the number is declining. My worry is that this year the administration has not allocated more resources for the review on tree management, and it seems that the administration is not prepared for the management, reviewing the management of trees. And on page 17 and 18 of the Secretary's speaking notes, they have listed all sorts of works like a new integrated approach, etc., etc. But according to DVB 008, the administration's reply to our question in relation to the proper management of trees and the risk assessment and the number of staff involved. For some departments, only a dozen staff is involved, and it seems that in terms of the strength of tree management, it's on the decline. So can the resources really cope with this work? First, on how trees on the LVT register can be kept, whereas for existing trees you can't even manage them properly. Second, on the point of staffing, we have urged the setting up of a piece of legislation about trees. Why is it that over so many years the administration has been so lax in its effort? I'll defer to my colleague for a more detailed answer. Thank you, Chairman. In fact, when we talk about the OVT register, the trees therein, as per reply, we have issued our invitations to relevant organizations for them to nominate more old and valuable trees to be put in the register. We are now handling around 10 odd cases in this regard at the moment, and we hope that in the coming year we can continue to add trees to this OVT.
Perhaps you may want to recall that in the past few years, since the CS4A had published a report on tree management, different departments have already boosted the resources so that we are at a sort of stable stage in relation to manpower deployment. Well, as far as manpower is concerned, in fact, there is a backup. That is, we can contract out certain work to contractors. This is being done by departments. So we're watching. Our level of resources is stable. So what we want to do is to enhance the quality. And that's why our efforts have mainly been focused on manpower training. We hope that we can improve the quality of our tree management. The ASD has gone 200,000. If we can check from the table, the number of trees is 200,000. But then in this year, they are going to have 5 persons only. And then for training, there's going to get $1 million only. So how are you going to achieve your purpose? Department, the SD is mainly responsible for the trees on the slopes on the government land. So we're responsible for the slope management as well as the tree management. We include the trees on government slopes. So tree management and slope management have been contracted out. So for the number of persons responsible for the work here, they are those who are overseeing the contractors. And they don't oversee tree management on a full-time basis. So in fact, our colleagues are responsible for tree management as well as other projects. We don't actually have a dedicated team of officers overseeing this area. Mr. Yip Kok Him. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may follow up a number of questions first. 0084 raised by Mr. Chan Hak Ken. So for our construction industry, we need 20,000 more workers. And in fact, I want to know what they are like. Does it mean that you are covering those who are aged 50 or above? If they're going to retire soon, are they going to add to the pressure of manpower shortage? What are you going to do to deal with it? And then I want to ask a question about lift maintenance. So in reply number 113, you are going to increase the number of inspections to 9,400 plus. This was mentioned before. So for such a target, my understanding is that that was laid down before the lift incident in North Point. So are you going to increase the number of inspections so as to safeguard public safety? And for the target of 9,400 inspections, it is an appropriate target if you think that the number of inspections is appropriate. But what actually do you mean when you say that you would enhance the inspection work? Secretary, I'll ask the PS to answer the first question. Well, number of construction workers. Since 2007, we have introduced a registration system, and so we are able to understand better the profile of the construction workers as well as the number, and we can also have an idea about the number of workers retiring. In the short term, we understand how many projects would be undertaken, and therefore we're able to calculate the number of construction workers needed. Yes, in terms of headcount, we believe that there would be sufficient construction workers. However, in relation to the skill distribution, we may not be able to meet all the demand. And therefore, in terms of training, we have been focusing the trades which have suffered from a shortage. Our understanding and assessment is that there will be 17 trades which have to be given more training. And therefore, in the past few years, we've already applied for funds to boost the training in this regard. According to our latest assessment, as we have mentioned in our reply, we need 20,000 extra workers, among whom 10,000 should be skilled workers to cope with the volume of our works. EMSD. For Mr. Yip's question, 9,400 inspections. If you look at the estimates, it's already mentioned on page 190. In other words, we have already factored in 9,400 inspections. Mr. Yip is right to point out that in the aftermath of the North Point accident, we have internal deployment, and therefore we're able to inspect more, and we had 248 inspections. For the 1 out of 7 ratio, that's our target. And in fact, in our review, we will certainly give attention to this to see if we need to make adjustments. If I may also ask a question concerning the CEDD, you have a long-term strategy study on cave-in development. You're going to spend $40 million just to find out how appropriate facilities of the government can be relocated to the rock cave-ins. And you're also going to spend $6.5 million to deal with the consultancy studies covering reclamation outside Victoria Harbour and cave-in development. So are you going to overlap the resources? Would it be a waste of public resources? If not, what about the division of labour? Mr. Horn? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may clarify one point. Well, in fact, the year before last, we already started a study to enhance land supply. In fact, we try different ways to enhance the system of land supply. 2 focuses. 1, reclamation. 2, rock cave-in usage. We carried out the first stage of the public engagement exercise. Most people agreed with the use of the rock cave-ins, and therefore last year we started the long-term strategy study. We have to look at the policies, and we have to look at the locations of the 400+ cave-ins. Some facilities can be housed in the cave-ins. Sorry, Director, time is out, and you can provide a written supplement. No overlapping. We are looking at the long-term aspect. Dr. K.K. Kwok. Yes, I want to talk about the enhanced land supply. For this term government, it would like to increase land supply, and would like to see citizens being able to afford their own homes. Now, for the many measures proposed, a lot of them are controversial, and a lot of them have to take a long time to materialize. But then the current term will expire in 2017. I want to know how you can make sure that by using the resources allocated to you, you can ensure us with adequate land supply. You talk about cave-ins, reclamation, development of the Northeast NT. They will take a long time. They won't come come on stream even before you step down. So how can you be sure that you are paying attention to urgent issues? Well, for land supply, whether it is reclamation outside the Victoria Harbour or the use of the rock cave-ins, indeed they take a longer period of time to materialize. However, when you develop a concept, it will take 10+ years to commission. In our policy address, we have over 10 projects. Some of them are short-term, some are medium-term, and in the second session today, the planning and lands colleagues will talk about the short-term and medium-term measures. Say, for example, reviewing the green belts, reviewing the use of industrial land, making use of the fallow agricultural land, or even rezoning GIC sites. Mr. Chairman, $4.5 billion have been earmarked for the purpose of NDA, cave-ins and reclamation outside Victoria Harbour in relation to their feasibility. But then we don't get a lot of information. For Northeast NT, I think it is very controversial. It is clear. How come that at this stage, before there is a public consensus, you are still allocating resources to study the matter? Are you trying to impose a decision on us? Secretary, I'll give a reply, and then Mr. Y, the PS, will supplement. Mr. Chairman, we talk about appropriate reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. We are at the second stage of the public consultation. May I remind you that it's actually for the second session. No, I asked about the allocation of resources to study the case of NT. It's in the speech. Well, take the example of the second stage of public consultation, read the reclamation outside Victoria Harbour. The purpose is to get public opinion and public support for us to go ahead with the second stage study. This about more in-depth environmental assessment, among others. So it isn't actually about the reclamation itself. So we have to study first before we know about the scope of reclamation and respond to the areas of concern raised. Therefore, the expenditure on consultation will cover a lot of things. It is the total sum. We need to have the advanced work before we can be sure how to go about the long-term land supply to meet the aspirations of the public. Question not answered. $4.5 billion in the estimates will also cover the study concerning the NENT. It is highly controversial. There isn't a consensus. Why is it that you still want to reserve the money for this purpose? This may be a waste of money. If you don't get public support, then you are throwing money into the drain. Well, it's earmarked money. We need to come back to the FC for specific approval. And I think we always have dissenting views in relation to each and every topic. So it's a matter of understanding the important issues. We really want to build a consensus, and then we will ask the public to make a decision. $4.5 billion, how much will be spent on NENT and how much will be spent on the cave-ins? In particular, NENT. Well, for NENT, well, at this stage, I think quite a lot of money has already been engaged or spent at the early stage. For the cave-ins, Mr. Y has almost given you a figure. So for NENT, you haven't reserved any new money for that. Allow me to supplement in writing later. Mr. Alan Leong, if I may follow up on my questions concerning the energizing Kowloon East. So serial number is 022 onwards. Now, my question for the controlling officer is, uh, 023. Now, for energizing Kowloon East, I want to know on what projects would you approach the FC this year for allocation of money. Secretary, maybe the Mr. Lee, the officer responsible, can take the question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Leung. For the park in Chun Yin Street, we are going to ask for your funding approval. Other than that, we'll mainly be carrying out studies. Mr. Chairman, well, for energizing Kowloon East, the government has set down 3 broad directions. Say, for example, enhancing connectivity with the rest of Kowloon East, because the government would like to have the CBD too.
So from Kowloon Bay MTR station leading to the new CBD, about the connectivity, within this year, will we be at the design stage? Will there be any plans finalized? Head of EKEO, about the Kowloon Bay, we have kick-started the feasibility study on the Kowloon Bay pedestrian link, and we will, in this study, explore ways to expedite the improvement in connectivity. In particular, from Kowloon Bay MTR station to the Kowloon Bay business area, the linkage is very crowded, so we are exploring how pedestrians can be diversed. And for medium and long-term studies, we will also look at how the environment can be improved as a whole, and we will deploy resources in the medium and long term to implement these plans. Now, having heard what Mr. Lee has said, in the coming year, about the linkages between Kowloon Bay MTR station and the surrounding areas, something will be done to improve the accessibility. This is what I'm delighted to hear. But what actually will be achieved in the coming year? Mr. Lee, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Leung. About the short-term plan, we are conducting a study, and starting from May, we will be engaging the community in the exercise. Our thinking is how the MTR, the Kowloon Bay MTR station can be diverted to other areas. For example, there is now one footbridge only, and we are now thinking whether they can go. Pedestrians can go via the south gate in order to go to the business area. We're thinking of erecting road signage and also crossing facilities, other crossing facilities, so as to improve the present situation. Mr. Eleanor, all right, thank you. I hope improvement can be made as much and as soon as possible, because now there is only one road. It's very crowded. Next, Mr. Gary Fan. Thank you. I'd like to follow up on DVB 140141142. All three questions relating to water supply from Dongjiang. My colleague has already touched upon this topic, but in 2009 and 2010 and 2011, the amount of water purchased from Dongjiang has increased, and the price has gone up every year, between 18 to 34%. Between 2008 and February 2013, the amount of water stood at 140 million cubic meters. I'm not going to argue with you, Director. There are whether the water came from Dongjiang or elsewhere. You have larger reservoirs and smaller reservoirs. Well, my question is, does the department has any technical strategy to prevent the overflow of water in small reservoirs so that they won't be discharged into the sea? Another question is for the Secretary for Development. In the coming days, the agreement of water supply with the Guangdong province will expire, and we need to explore other sources of water, including the feasibility of a desalination plant. But the department is adopting the Siwa Leung's attitude, and that is we have studies and more studies. And will there be any timetable on when this desalination plant will be built, although it only supplies 5% and or 9% of total water supply in Hong Kong, can that help in procuring less water from Dongjiang? And now we take a fixed approach in our agreement with Guangdong province, but can we take a quantity-based approach instead? My question is whether the administration has this plan in mind in the future. Mr. Ma, would you please take the first question? It's about choices, not about technicality. Of course, if we expand smaller reservoirs, we need to we can take up the extra water reserve, but that will take up land. We have 17 reservoirs. One is the two major ones are High Island Reservoir and Plover Cove, and they take up the largest proportion of water in reserve. And earlier years we found that expansion would encounter a lot of difficulties, so it's a matter of choices. Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. We need to study the feasibility of a desalination plant first, because we need to consider the latest technology before we implement the plan. This will it will be easier for us to get the council and the public support. We understand even adopting the latest technology, the cost will be around $12, which is quite different from $8 cost for Dongjiang water. But we are paying much more comparing to Macau, which procures water from Xinjiang, and also Singapore procuring water from Malaysia. I'm just talking about the arrangement in Macau. Thank you for a reminder. We will refer to the data as well. I want to emphasize that because we are at a different location, water supply will be different. On the quantity-based approach, yes, I have heard your view. That we're still 2 years away from the expiration of the agreement. We will probably start negotiating with the other party on the next agreement towards the end of this year or the beginning of next year. But the quantity-based approach, will this also be considered by the administration? We will consider that as our direction forward. But during negotiations, we have differing views, but we have heard members' views. We will consider. Next, Mr. Chen Kem Lam. 2 questions. One is about Kowloon Bay, Kwun Tong, and Kai Tak. The potential of these areas is quite large. It's estimated that 4 million square meters area will be provided for office as office space, and I understand that some residential sites have been put up for sale. I'd like to know the progress for land for office space, because similarly it's experienced a shortage. My next question is question serial number 0532. In the reply, it states that because some underground utilities are not indicated in the drawings, so some permits have to be, or permit extensions have to be given. So my question is whether the administration will check all the underground utilities and whether such information can be obtained, so that when public works are carried out, this information can be provided to contractors or government departments concerned, so that the application for excavation permits extension can be minimized. Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Now, on the supply of office space in Kowloon East, for land coming on stream this year, they have been incorporated in the land sale program. But as members may be aware, some sites have been rezoned from industrial to commercial sites, and this is up to the market to apply for conversion into commercial buildings. And Kowloon Bay and Kwun Tong, gradually we're seeing more and more office buildings, but the speed depends really on the market. And frankly, it's not in the control of the administration. Policy-wise, we have introduced policies in relation to wholesale conversion of industrial buildings, but market response has also been has to be considered. And in Kowloon East, there are 2 action areas for government offices to be relocated to the area so that office space can or commercial sites can be released. I will defer to Mr. Y to take up the second question. Now, information about underground utilities. Every utility company has a computer system in which they keep a record of underground utilities. And the Highways Department does have a system which is a computer network allowing departments or companies requiring excavation work to obtain information from other utility companies. In fact, after the introduction of this control system, the number of excavation works have decreased drastically. And recently, we're looking into whether improvement can be made to this system for better exchange of information. Mr. Chan Kam-lam. Just now, Secretary talked about rezoning land in Kowloon Bay and Kwun Tong, and said that the revitalization of the area has to do with the market. I hope that the government can be appropriately active. For land already planned in Kai Tak, I hope that more sites can be released to meet the market's demand for more office space. Another point of clarification, does it mean the administration has a comprehensive system to allow contractors to obtain information about underground or utility companies? Mr. Chan Kam-lam, your time is up. Please put your supplementary question in writing. I will ask the administration to reply in writing. Mr. Tam Yu-chung, 2 questions. Just now, PS replied to Mr. Yip Kwok Him's question about the manpower shortage problem in the construction industry. I heard that the problem exists. There is a shortage of about 20,000 workers, and there is a mismatching of skills. And now the recruitment work will be enhanced and more training will be provided. Of course, this should be done. About the workload, if the labor shortage cannot be resolved, can we do something about the quantity or the number of projects? Can they be phased? Because now the public works expenditure stands at $70 billion, whereas in the past it was just $40 billion. If the economy isn't good, of course we need more projects so as to create more job opportunities for workers. Now the situation is different. What is the administration's view? Secretary, I will defer to PS to take this question. When we look at the project number and project costs, these are two separate matters. In the coming years, the expenditure on public works will reach 70 or over $70 billion. But when we look at the new airport project, the expenditure was $30 billion. But that was 10 to 20 years ago. The workload at that time actually was quite heavier than the present situation. We will definitely consider this point, and in the event labor shortage remains, and if the project is not urgent in nature, or if the project period can be spanned, we will definitely do so. We implemented the registration system for workers since 2007. The number of workers registered have increased from 225,000 to 310,000. So we have recruited more fresh blood into the industry, and there is room to train up more workers.
If even training cannot cope with the situation, then we will consider adjusting the volume of works. Tam Yu Chung, well, the number of workers registered may not be the same as the number of active construction workers. Do you have any surveys done? Among the 310,000 workers, about 30,000 are underemployed or unemployed, and then about 50,000 have registered as construction workers, but it appears that they haven't been working in the construction industry. In other words, there is a gap of 80,000 people. I think we should try to attract them back to the industry, and we need to have new blood. We need to provide more resources. We need to provide training. So as I have said, as far as headcount is concerned, there is room for training. There's room to attract new blood by having subsidies. If we still can't cope, then we have to adjust the volume of our works. Tam Yu Chung. Bursts of water mains and leakage. Very often we have read about such reports. Whenever there is a water pipe burst, there will be traffic congestion and wastage of water. In the opening speech of the Secretary, he has said that when compared with the peak in 2010-2011, when there were 2,500 cases, we have seen a significant drop. The latest figure is, as of February, there were 240 cases only. But I just wonder whether you can make further adjustments to your maintenance and rehabilitation program. And are you sure that you can give priority to those that are more vulnerable so as to further suppress this figure, and then we can avoid water wastage and causing traffic jams? Mr. Ma? We have deployed different measures. In fact, all over Hong Kong, within the water supplies network, we are decreasing the pressure of the water pipes. In this way, the leakage rate and the bursting rate will come down. We have also seen that the rehabilitation and replacement scheme is effective. We're going to launch a new phase after the current stage has been completed. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, two questions. First of all, that's about water resources. When we talked about power supply, usually we talk about 2 points. First of all, the fuel mix. And then as far as water resources are concerned, I want to know if the administration has got something like this. That is, do we have a desirable ratio between water supply from Dongjiang and water supply from our own reservoirs, and how much we can save by way of water conservation measures, so that you come up with an integrated approach, and then every citizen knows what he has to do, like reusing water and water conservation efforts. And then my second question is, everybody knows that there is a shortage of water supply, and that brings about another major issue. That is, I want to know about the per capita water usage. I think it's quite alarming. I think we are almost topping the league. This is because in our water billing system, we don't have a incentive for people to conserve water. So while you are talking about the new price levels for the Dongjiang River water supply agreement, would you also address this problem? Perhaps we should have ideas to prevent water wastage. I don't think we should allow water to be wasted in our daily life. Of course, there is another side of the story here. Does the WSD itself have any targets for itself? For the power companies, we say that they need to be given some indicators or targets to save energy. What about the WSD? Do you have any water conservation targets? It seems that in the paper you are merely talking about education and education. We aren't quite sure about the effectiveness of your water conservation efforts. For energizing Kowloon East, you have been emphasizing the promotion of creative industries. You talk about entrusting a consultant to carry out a study covering a large number of topics. But what about the cultural and creative industries? What about the role to be played in the whole exercise of energizing Kowloon East? And what sort of support are you going to render? If it is covered in the study, when are you going to announce the results? If not, why not? Director, for our water resources policy, back in 1950s, we have already introduced the idea of using seawater to flush the toilets. It resulted in a saving of 20%. For Dongjiang River, it provides 70 to 80% of our water supply. The rest, 20 to 30%, coming from a local source. I think this is already the most cost-effective ratio or mix. We still want to study the desalination plant. This is we want to supplement to the possible drop in local water supply in the light of climate change and lower rainfall. If it is proved to be cost effective, we would continue with the current mix of water supply sources. When we look at the overall water usage in the year 2008, in 2030, probably we have to use 1.3 billion cubic meter of water. I think we are able to control it down to 1.1 billion cubic meters of water. It means quite a substantial decrease. Now, if you say that Hong Kong people use a lot of water, daily usage 220 liters per day, 130 liters fresh water, and then 90 liters of salt water for flushing. So 20 liters more when compared with the world average. We now have the Save 10 Liter a Day campaign to save water. If we can have twice a year, then we are able to lower the daily water usage level per person down to the world target. In 2008, there was also a figure, and we hope that we can bear that point in mind. And what we want to achieve is to save 100 million cubic meters of water. So we do have specific targets. First of all, we need to have the water efficiency labeling scheme. And for the water billing system, it is a tiered tariff system. Director, you have already used up all the time. Just allow me to say a final word. Yes, we'll try to incorporate certain features as suggested by the member in the water bills. I think you note the member's question. Mr. Tony Chair, flood prevention. I'm referring to the Secretary's speech. Some have already been carried out and others will soon be carried out. For the Happy Valley facility, that is the storm water storage tank beneath the Happy Valley recreation ground. You will keep the water there, but are you going to use it instead of just allowing it to flow into the sea? Secretary, maybe the director can answer this question. Thank you for this question. For the flood prevention facilities, for the Happy Valley facility, I think the stormwater storage tank is a unique facility. This is because further upstream, we have used tunnels to intercept certain water. And then in the midstream and downstream, for the rainwater there, we have built the Happy Valley tank to store the stormwater temporarily, so as not to allow the water to flow downstream, so as to prevent adding to the pressure and the volume. After the heavy rain, the purpose is to take the stormwater out and have it flushed into the sea. As to whether the water stored there can be reused, well, I think it's a matter of the water quality. For the ground level water downstream in the urban area, there would be different degrees of contamination. Contamination on the road surface, or there may be a novel connection with sewage being let into the stormwater network, and therefore there is no guarantee as far as water quality is concerned. And then there is the question of water volume. Whenever there is heavy rain, then we will keep the extra stormwater or the surplus stormwater in this storage tank. When we don't have a heavy rain, it means that the stored water has to be pumped out so as to allow us to have a spare capacity to wait for the next heavy rain to come and receive the water. In other words, the capacity of the tank is such that we can't keep the water there all the time, so as to keep it for different purposes. So it is only for a short period of time can we afford to keep stormwater in the tank. After the heavy rain has passed, we shouldn't keep the water there. So there will be some limitations here, and therefore it may not be appropriate to try to reuse the water in the storage tank. Mr. Tony Chair. I want to look at reply 056. And that's about Kowloon East. And that's about the study on the industrial heritage of Kowloon East. It seems that you are looking at the input from the industrial sector. What about the arts and culture sector? In particular for culture, are you going to have the right policy support and the resources so that we can promote and help local artists so that they can also benefit from this scheme? Mr. Lee? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your question. For the EKE, we want to have diversity. In 2011, the Planning Department carried out a survey for us. 500 plus organizations in the district are related to cultural and creative industries. While we're transforming Kowloon East, we will make use of every opportunity to allow all stakeholders to take part, including the group of stakeholders that we have just mentioned. We want the business area to have a stronger element of culture. So in the transformation of Kowloon East, we will find opportunities to allow the artists and the artistic organizations to have room to develop, say, for example, to see if they can make use of the spare sites or idle sites under the flyovers, and whether newly completed buildings can also have an additional element of art. Mr. Leung Chi-Chang. Mr. Chairman, I want to ask a question about 085, and that's about the cycle track.
Currently, Hong Kong is planning for construction of cycle tracks. There are a number of studies and designs, but the progress has been very slow. So far, only the Ma On Shan and Changshui section is being constructed. For other sections, they are either being reviewed or studied. I think even after 2020, they won't be completed. So I'd like to ask the director, what are the difficulties in your studies? Is there any problem with resources? Mr. Han, Director. Chairman. Now about cycle tracks in NT, it leads all the way from Ma'anshan to Chunwan, spanning 82 kilometers. It's not a short path. And like Mr. Leung has said, we have kick-started the works for Ma'anshan and Shengshui section. This will be completed roughly towards the end of this year. For other sections, I'd like to say something about them as well. For Shengshui to Tunmun, we have stage 1 works. The works will, we will go to LegCo for funding towards the end of this year. For Shengshui to Tunmun, it spans 30 kilometers. So for stage 1, which is about 16.5 kilometers from Tunmun to Kamtin River, the design work will be completed very soon. We'll be coming to LegCo for funding. And for the section between Kamtin River and Bees River, indeed we are encountering some difficulties. And there are concerns if a cycle track is being constructed there, and we are looking into other options, for example, realignment. And if realignment is not possible, we will erect barriers to minimize the nuisance from egrets, and we're looking into that. As for the Chunwan-Tunmun section, it spans 22 kilometers, and technically this is more complicated, and we hope to finish our works stage by stage. For example, from Chunwan to a private residential development, the section is 2.3 kilometers, but there are views from local residents they think we are experiencing difficulties in the section leading to Riviera Garden. There is another section, 4.5 kilometers, spanning between Riviera Garden to Shamqing, and we're conducting detailed design and EIA at the moment, and this will be kick-started soon if the EIA is successful. And the remaining section is 10.5 kilometers from Shamqing to Tunmun. And again, we have been facing opposition from residents living there. They think that nuisance will be caused by cyclists along the track, and we're looking at other options. And with the help of the district council, we are discussing with local residents. Altogether, it spans 82 kilometers. It's not a short track, and there are concerns from the neighborhood, the environment, and we will try to implement the project in phases. I agree that it can be implemented in phases, but can you do something like resuming land first for some sections? We try our best not to resume any land for the construction of cycle tracks. Our goal is that if we can complete the works stage by stage, we will do so. Mr. Abraham Shak, I'm very delighted to have read the Secretary speaking notes. They have responded to several questions on the construction industries. Now, about page 6, security payment. My question for the Secretary is when you come to LegCo and when the legislative process will be kick-started. Now, our plan is to start consultation on security of payment towards the end of this year to the beginning of next year, and after that we will come to LegCo for scrutiny. You understand that the legislative year is will last till July. Next, about public works. PS mentioned that over the next few years there will be over recent years, the expenditure on public works amounted to $70 billion. But there are a lot of constraints for SMEs to take part in the public work projects. Will the administration review the tendering process so that SME contractors will be able to take up some of the public works? PS, yes, we are conducting this review. There are three categories of contractors, category A, B, and C. We are reviewing the tendering limit for categories A and B so that more contractors can take part in our public works projects. Mr. Shek. Third question, I want to follow up on the PS's reply to Mr. Tam Ying-chung's question. If there is a labor shortage, the CIC will roll out initiatives. I know that you have medium to long-term strategies, but the question was about whether the workload would be decreased. But my concern is that public works would facilitate economic development if they have to be called to a halt because of labor shortage. It will affect all aspects of our economy. So will you consider relaxing the criteria for import of labor, just like what the administration did during the 10 infrastructure projects, without affecting the wage levels of local workers? Secretary, I'll defer this to PS to take this question. Basically, we agree, if necessary, works should go ahead. So only when works are really not urgent in nature will we consider suspending the project. And during the construction of the new airport, there was no policy on import of labor. It was because of this project that the policy was formulated. If the contractor can prove at present that no worker for that skill can be located and no training can be provided under that scheme, labor can be imported. Mr. Abraham Shek. This is all I have to ask so far. Next, Mr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. DVBW037 about inspecting roadside trees. Now about the inspection of trees on the roadside, territory-wide. Some of the districts have completed the work. My concern is that the stormy season and the rain season is coming, and the collapse of trees have caused problems to traffic as well as pedestrians. And there are concerns because it happens every year and there are fatalities and injuries. Now, according to the answer, this matter will be followed up. But I want to know what exactly will be carried out. For example, whether problematic trees will be monitored or failed. Other question is about DEVBW070 and 109 is also a related question. Both are about energy. ISO 5001 is more suitable for organizations with large energy consumption. For ISO 5001 energy management system, well, it's suitable for organizations with large energy consumption, and this can go hand in hand with ISO 9001, 14001, etc., under an integrated management approach. And I urge the RKSD to consider this. I understand that there are buildings that have already been accredited, and the Housing Department also adopts the ISO 5001. ISO 9001 is about the DSD, the Drainage Services Department. I understand that it consumes much energy, and in the reply, I talked about, the energy saving measures have been covered, but I think that the department should also consider ISO 5001. I will invite Mr. Lui to say something about tree management, and my other colleague to answer the point on ISO 5001. About tree management, we do have a guideline on tree management, and the tree management office will assess the trees before the rain season, before the end of May. That is for trees under risk area 1. In terms of the risk or hazards to pedestrians and traffic, assessment will be done, and every tree will also be subject to individual examination, and the report will have to be submitted to our tree management office. Apart from the request for government departments to complete their assessment of trees before the stormy season, we will also require all the relevant organizations like OCs and mutual aid communities to conduct a similar assessment on trees. This administration. Yes, on the adoption of ISO standards, we do keep an open mind. We are doing an integrated management approach comprising ISO 9001, ISO 14001, and 18,001, and we will come up with the most appropriate standard to use. About trees. This is about roadside trees, and there are 200 problematic trees identified already. Please tell me in a written reply in relation to the roadside trees what action will be taken this year. Any other questions? Your time is up. Mr. Tan Ka-pil. Thank you, Chairman. My question is serial number 0313 about lifts, and I see from Part E of the reply a worrying figure. In 2011-2012, the daily wage of a lift and escalator worker 2 years ago was 696, and then in 2011 644, 2010 just in 2010 696, and then in 2012 605. So the wages have dropped. I addressed the council last time that in February 2013, for an unskilled or experienced worker, the daily wage for the incoming for the new worker was $212, and even for a worker with 20 years of experience, they get the same level of wages. I'd like the secretary to tell me how this can be resolved. What is your view on the wages for these skilled workers, which are very important to the safety of people, safety of Hong Kong people? Now, about the labor supplement program or importation of labor, there are welding workers for Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macau Bridge, and some 200 workers were imported into Hong Kong because we do not have workers equipped with the skill. And this mechanism has proven effective. There is no need to consider other mechanisms. Secretary, thank you, Chairman. Maybe I'll defer to Mr. Frank Chan, Director of EMS, to give you a more detailed reply on the issue of workers. As stated clearly in our reply, this figure is these set of figures come from the regular report. It's also the supplementary information. I also held a meeting with the labor union, and I talked with workers, and as I understand, for lift or escalator workers, for competent workers, their starting point should be, salary point should be 13,000. So basically, they could earn monthly salary of 15 to 16,000. For experienced workers, when during our negotiation with labor unions and trade associations, we heard that their salaries could reach 20 or 30,000. Of course, that depends on the quality of work and experience of individual workers. I see that the wages have gone down very obviously from 696 to 644 and 605. And when during our meetings with the contractors, we have reflected this concern.
Well, for the figures that they have submitted, I think they are just providing us with the basic salary. Well, in fact, we have urged the relevant contractors to provide us with more specific figures when they fill out the forms, so that the data that we have in hand can reflect accurately the true situation. Let's not dwell on the figures. What is important is that we want to know whether the workers are adequately paid. Mr. Tang, of course, I think that the reply is not complete. Secretary, anything to add? Yes, Mr. Chairman. On the part of the administration, on the part of the Development Bureau, we don't allow workers to be exploited. So should there be individual cases that should attract our attention, we'll be happy to follow it up to make sure that workers are given a reasonable pay. Of course, I'm most dissatisfied. You are saying that either you are saying that CNS data is unscientific, or you fail to see that there has actually been a fall in the wages. Now, how would you expect somebody to be attracted to your trade for an hourly wage of $26.50? Now, for the contractors, I think they have been paid more for the service. How come that the workers are paid less? Mr. Chen Hangpan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question serial number 3054. My understanding is that in Hong Kong, we can boast the largest number of lifts per person. We have 141 out of 101 lift for 144 persons. In Singapore, 170. Japan, 230. And my question is, do you have sufficient manpower to inspect the lifts and escalators to make sure that they are really safe and they're up to the standards? You have given me the figures. I have been surprised. Now, for the EMSD, you have only got one team of officers, one engineer, one senior engineer, 3 engineers, and 19 inspectors. Would it be adequate to deal with so many lifts and escalators in Hong Kong? So are you going to recruit more manpower for inspection? And then for the penalties, I think they're on the light side. There were 2 prosecution cases, but then the fines ranged from $2,000 to $5,000. Are you sort of taking the matter too lightly? Director, the penalties first. under Cap 327. Formerly, the maximum fine was only 5,000 only. When we prosecuted the offending contractors, we were scolded by the judge, saying that the level of fines was out of step with the reality, and therefore on the 17th of October last year, the new ordinance, Cap 618, came into effect. The highest fine to be imposed could be $200,000 and a year's imprisonment. So in terms of the penalties as well as the regulatory framework, having consulted the public, the trade, and the industry, we have seen an overall enhancement, and contractors and workers have also got a registration system which has also been enhanced. Now, manpower. Mr. Chen is right to point out that we have got 1 senior engineer, 3 engineers, and 19 inspectors responsible for inspections. On the face of it, it is seen on the ground. Now you see that it is a team of 20 or so, and every day they can inspect between 2 and 4 lifts. I think the manpower level is about right. They can cope. Of course, in the light of the recent incidents, we would like to review the inspection system. Some contractors are poor performers. We will increase the number of inspections. In our inspections, if there is a need for further inspections, we'll do so, and we will also carry out spot checks. So we have a target-oriented approach, and we hope that the lift and escalator contractors and workers, as well as the general public, would have their mind put at ease. We are going to set up a lift and escalators safety advisory committee. For this committee, we are going to invite laypersons to join us as members, as well as a representative from the Consumer Council. For Mr. Chen's concern, we will certainly address it in the committee. We hope that we have a more comprehensive and effective inspection system. Yes, point taken. In 2012, you amended the law, so you have come up with a new piece of legislation with new law enforcement standards. You should increase your manpower before you can be effective. You say you want to enhance your work, but you have only got a dozen or so people. You can only check 2 or 3 lifts, and yet there are so many lifts and escalators all over the city, so you need many more persons to help you with the work. Secretary, just an additional point or two. It is risk-oriented, and therefore the relatively poorer performers will be given more inspections. And then for older lifts and also for particular models which have been found to be more susceptible to problems will also receive more inspections. Mr. Chen, the director, had already said that since 2010, we have enhanced the ratio of inspection. Instead of 1 out of 10, it is now 1 out of 7. Mr. Christopher Chung, I want to follow up on the inspection of lifts and escalators. For the case in North Point, all the 4 cables have already been damaged. So it isn't just a matter of quantity, it's also a matter of quality. So I want to ask about the procedures as well as the quality of the inspection. You inspect 2 to 4 lifts. You go there and just put a tick against each and every item on the checklist, and then you go off work. Then it won't help. So what about the quality? For the problematic contractors or the poor performers, do you have another system to carry out a very intensive inspection? There are certain crucial elements that cannot afford to be sort of overlooked, just like the case in Point. So are you going to review the content of your inspection program? Mr. Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chung, for your question. The quality. Allow me to give you the factual information. The ratio is 1 out of 7. So for us to complete the cycle, it will take 6 to 7 years. So for the lift in question, the previous inspection was carried out in 2009. Yes, we understand that a few years have already passed in between. And therefore, we were not able to take a look of the lift in between. We have now found that the problem was serious, and therefore, for the lift under the care of that particular contractor was given a full inspection in as short as 3 years. It shows that we take the matter very seriously. As to the question as to whether the inspection is rigorous and comprehensive, we've been following all the procedures, but still we are open to suggestions and comments, and we are going to set up a safety advisory committee, and we'll have an open mind, and we will urge committee members to examine the procedures. We will be humble, and we'll be listening to all sorts of suggestions, and we'll be happy to take on board input from all quarters. Mr. Chung, I don't think you should just leave everything in the hands of the Safety Advisory Committee. You are supposed to be the expert. You should look at the procedures and also areas to be covered to see if there's anything to be improved. Now, there will be a wait of 2 to 3 years. You can't afford to see the lift falling and you just blame the contractor. You are the expert. Are you going to review it? Are you going to enhance the quality? After the meeting, please inform this committee as to what you're going to do to improve the situation, Mr. Chen. Allow me to supplement, Mr. Chairman. When it comes to lift safety, of course the government must monitor, and we have no intention to shirk our responsibility. There are 5 related persons here. Other than the government, we have the contractor, of course, and then the contractor and the engineers and professionals will be responsible for the examination of the lift. And then, of course, the property owners have the responsibility to choose the right contractor. So everybody has a role to play. For the review to be carried out, as mentioned by the director, we don't want to be mechanical. We don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction and try to become panicky. We want to adopt an overall view. We want to find a long-term solution. And I just checked with Mr. Chen if he has anything to add. I agree with what Mr. Chung has said. We are the regulatory body. We mustn't shirk our responsibility. We've always been very professional in our work. For the regulatory system as well as the details, in fact, we are comparable with other advanced places, and when compared with advanced cities, our regulatory system does not fall behind. And in fact, many places have come to us to learn from our experience, like Singapore. We are going to have the next session at 11:05, so a break of 6 minutes.